I was able to leave my job by buying a business, then I bought another one, then another one, then another one, and actually I oversee 9 businesses now. Most of those have been bought from retiring business owners. If you think business acquisition is kind of confined to Amazon buying Whole Foods or these mega corporations, you're actually wrong, and you can do it too, and I want to explain to you how to do it well. There's one big mistake I made on my first transaction. I'm going to share that with you at the end so you don't have to make that mistake too. You can, through warm introductions or networking in your local area, find people who are about to retire, who are small business owners. You then engage with them and talk to them about what it would look like to buy them out so they can retire. You take over their legacy and you're trained by them to continue to run that business. Assuming you've got a deal, we need to talk about how you finance the deal. The reason we have to talk about financing the deal is most people are not going to be buying businesses in cash. They use some sort of debt or financing to buy the business. In the US, the most common way to buy a business is with SBA financing. That is a government scheme that allows you to borrow money at very favorable terms, in my opinion. This is my opinion because I've worked in 12 countries. I've never seen anything like the SBA before. So yes, the interest rate is a little high, perhaps you could argue. However, you can buy businesses with like really low down payments. The lowest I've seen is a 2.5% down. Unbelievable, honestly. Seller financing offers more flexibility. It actually can mean that the seller gets more money because they are the bank essentially, and they collect interest on the money, and so they end up with more money. So it's really good when a seller doesn't need the money immediately. Say they've just been successful over 20, 30, 40 years. They don't need the money. They may actually choose to defer the payments over time, so they pay less taxes and they actually collect more money with the interest income. Partnerships are another really good way to think about buying a business. If you do not have the resources yourself for any down payment, I don't want you to totally exclude yourself from this. Do think about whether this is something you really want to take on. But if you really do, but you just can't bring that piece to the table, then consider giving equity away to someone else who can come in and you can do the deal together. I've seen that happen many times, and it really is a viable option.
Sounds like a deal.
I went from W2 to business ownership. That was a big jump for me. So I had to learn a methodology that I now teach my students in the inner circle. But you need to first learn as much as you can from the seller. Like, they are the experts. They've done this for several decades, and you cannot come in like a hotshot thinking you know everything, because you don't. You need to learn, take their wisdom, their knowledge of the business, and take that on as much as you possibly can. A lot of this is actually not about the numbers, but about relationships, because relationships will always come first. You need to build relationships with your employees, your vendors, your customers. Depending on the business and the industry, there'll be relationships that you need to establish and build good rapport with to ensure the business can be profitable and successful for the long run. Don't change too much too soon. So some people come into this world, and as soon as they're in, they want to start implementing all their ideas that they've got, and this is how I'm going to make the business bigger, better, more profitable. Don't do that. Don't do that. Learn the business inside out, go slow. Human nature says that we don't like change. And so people don't like change, employees don't like change. Don't come in and start blowing stuff up. That is not sensible. After about 3 months is when I recommend people start to implement changes, whether it's changing your IT provider, your accounting software, something else that you've seen that you really want to change. Like, do it in like 2 or 3 months from when you start. That's generally best advice. In those first few months when you're not changing stuff, you can collect data to actually help you make better decisions rather than just doing it, based on feelings or whatever else, maybe driving your desire to change something. Just do it on data and do it when you actually know what will make the business better. Escape the 9 to 5, buy a business, and take control of your life. And here's that tip I promised you at the beginning. We ended up losing over $1 million, which is a huge sum of money, very stressful, because I didn't properly financially diligence the company, the first company that we bought. And so there's this thing that you do in the diligence phase, which is after you're under LOI and before you've closed, where you check the QuickBooks, to the bank statements, to the tax returns. You check them, and it's kind of called a proof of cash in many ways in the industry. I didn't do that, and so what happened was I didn't have the complete set of financial data, and actually the earnings, the true earnings of the business were not what I thought they were, because I was only looking at part of the picture. That was very stressful. Thankfully, it ended well. That is one of our strongest businesses today. So thankfully, the story ended well, but it was very stressful when I started. And if you can learn from my mistake, then that's good news. And I hope that that piece of advice, that tip, will stand you in good stead to buy your first business well.